here to talk to you about dog training because I don't have a dog at all, and what would a technical conference be if it didn't have somebody being an expert about something they don't actually use, right? So, I got fired. I mean, fired. And in the UK, it's kind of a different system, and I had to work out how it worked. But in the US, what happens is either you get fired for cause, which means you were stealing money or hitting people, or you get fired for poor performance and unsuitable and bad fit and whatever else we can say that means I don't like how you work. I deserved it. I wasn't doing what my manager wanted. I wasn't doing what the company wanted. I wasn't fulfilling their expectations. And they couldn't get me to do the thing they wanted, which BT dubs was super boring. But, you know, I have some trauma. I still have, like, a Pavlovian reaction when my boss closes the door behind me. I'm like, yep, that's it. I'm getting fired. It hurts to get fired, and it's hard to talk about. But dignity is for people who are not conference speakers. So I got put on a PIP. That's a performance improvement plan, and it's also an acronym for Start Job Searching Now. Because there are managers and companies where you manage to survive a PIP, and they can explain to you extremely clearly not only is your job in danger, but how you should, you know, mitigate the things that you're doing wrong so that you can keep your job. Because recruiting is expensive, and they're motivated to keep you if they at all can. I've never experienced a successful PIP. I've been through several. Let me recommend treating your ADD if you have it. It super helps doing boring things. But when I got put on a PIP, I felt like I was being asked to jump through impossible flaming hoops that I didn't understand where exactly they were. It made no sense to me. I couldn't understand what they wanted me to do. So now that I've made you sad, we're going to watch a video.
I'm a soul man. I'm a soul man. Ha! Listen, was brought up on a side street. Not out of love or out of pity. I was educated for a good start. But I started loving, I just can't stop. I'm a soul man. 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 Well, grab the rope and I'll pull you in. Give you hope and be your only boyfriend, yeah.
Okay, that was amazing, right? That's at Crufts. You too could go see Crufts and watch, it's called Heel Work to Music. That woman was cueing the dog about everything she wanted it to do. When she was waving her hat like this, that means pretend to play the piano, dog. That's kind of amazing. That's, okay, a lot amazing. The human and the dog are working together to perform this routine. And I think although the dog is doing lots of things that are not like inherently dog-like, it turns out that most shaggy dogs do not play the piano like naturally. It's also totally having fun. Like if you know anything about dog body language, you know that dog is having a blast. It's having a great time. What would your work life be like if you and the person who reports to you and the person you report to could be both autonomous and working together because you have shared goals that you know and agree on? What would that be like? This talk started because I spent... You have no idea how many times I give this unconference talk. It started because I spent 20 years as a technical writer, and everyone asked me this question: how do I get developers to write documentation? To which the answer is, stop making developers write documentation, hire technical writers. We're cheaper and faster. But this is not an answer that's been going over well. So here are the hard truths. Very few developers enjoy writing documentation. Turns out. Very few managers know how to get people to do something they really don't like to do. Yeah, you know that. You know that, like, there's that moment when you have to fill in a time card and you're like, I'm only doing this because it's the only way to get paid. And if it weren't about getting paid, if it were something stupid and trivial like writing your release notes, not going to happen. Have you ever fired a developer for writing insufficient documentation? Do you know anyone who, as a developer, was fired for writing insufficient documentation? No, right? It's not a thing that happens. How about promotion for excellent documentation? This happens once in a while, very rarely. So if you say, how do I get my developers to write documentation, and then you don't punish it, and you don't reward it, all you're really doing is making like mouth noises. You didn't mean that. So this picture is Maddie. She is so famous that she has her own book where she stands on things. It's a great book. It's full of Maddie standing on things. And the title is called Maddie Standing on Things. The amazing part is dogs don't inherently know where their back feet are. In order to get this dog to stand on 2 pieces of wood and fence posts and all sorts of other strange things, the owner had to train Maddie where her back feet were and then ask her in a way that she understood to go ahead and perform that. That's kind of a lot of complication for some admittedly awesome pictures. A behavior is a team effort to meet a shared goal. It's not necessarily an individual behavior, but like a behavior for a group. Team effort to meet a shared goal. We're going to put that in our head, okay? And then we're going to talk about training theory. Positive or behavioral shaping, positive training or behavioral shaping isn't new. It's how we teach whales to jump through hoops. It's how we teach cats to act in movies. And it's how we teach children to use the bathroom. It's based on old and proven psychology, and it works with the reward centers in our brains and our desire to be part of a team. At the simplest level, the trainer rewards a behavior or a part of a behavior until the trainee starts offering it spontaneously. Then they agree on a cue, and when the trainer uses the cue, the trainee performs and gets a reward. There are some refinements after that, but that's really the core of it. Do the thing I want, get a treat. I hope all the managers out there are starting to have a thought about how this might work in their life. So we used to train dogs with a traditional method that involved shock collars and yelling at them and smacking them with rolled up newspapers. And nobody thought much about this. We also trained children and employees this way. Fewer shock collars, more shame and belittling. I had a newspaper editor once who was very into this method. Yeah, it works. You can mostly get the behavior out. It's not great for your relationship because the person or animal you are training is scared of you. But you can get the behavior you want. It totally works. A lot of us have had that manager. We're scared of them. They're going to criticize us. They live in our brains. We give them rent-free space in our heads to go ahead and continue criticizing us all the time. Some of us have those parents. I don't have those parents, but they exist. Positive training. Incentivizing the right behavior, replacing bad behaviors with good behaviors. It's a little more modern. Not that much more modern. We were doing it like pre-World War II, but like it's relatively modern in like dog training and child psychology. We use rewards and praise and excitement and teamwork and relationship to get behaviors that we want. And then there's corporate training, which is very confusing as it is neither punished nor rewarded, merely enforced, and it involves a lot of webinars that don't make any sense. And the thing where they send you a security training that's a blind link, and you can't see where it goes to, except you're supposed to click on it. I have always argued that if I don't click on that, I have already passed the security training. My managers do not agree. They have different standards. So that's the theory of training. That's the theory of positive training, of behavioral shaping, is reward the behavior you want. This is my stepdog. His name is Zeker. He's so cute, isn't he? He's my stepdog because I don't have to pay his vet bills, but he does come do fun things with me, like go on long bike rides. And he has all of these weird, charming habits. Like, if you drop something and say, oh, shoot, he will go and pick it up and bring it back to you. Because the person who trained him is kind of clumsy and hates bending over. Or if he's bored, he will search the floor for scraps of paper, and if he's really bored, he will generate scraps of paper, and bring them to you for a treat. Okay? If you're trying to get him to do something specific, we use a clicker, does that come through? To tell him when he's done exactly the right thing. He doesn't look for paper on the floor because he's like some kind of litter hound. That's not actually a setting we have, except for Beagle, which is just more generally, I could eat that. No, probably I could eat that. He does it because he's been rewarded for these behaviors, and he's offering them spontaneously because he thinks he might get rewarded. Okay, it's pretty logical. Sometimes he does get rewarded. All right, so now we're going to do a demo, and I need a brave volunteer. You're going to come up on stage. Come on. There we go. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Tell me your name.
Sophia.
Sophia. Okay. Sophia, stick out your arms.
My what?
Your arms. Oops, sorry. Stick out your arms. Okay. Put your arms down. Stick out your arms. Stick out your arms. Stick out your arms. You're going to try something different? Okay, try again. Stick out your arms. Closer. Okay, that's good. All right. Okay, hands down. Sophia, stick out your arms. Yay, you got it. Now, did I tell her to stick her arms over her head? No. Here you go. Thank you. That's your reward. You're off the hook. I didn't need to tell her exactly what to do because I had language, and that makes it a lot easier to ask a human to do something than a dog. So given that we have language, you would think that management would be easier, but no. English exists to obscure meaning between humans, pretty sure. So what causes a behavior? If a behavior is a team effort toward a shared goal, what causes it? Well, why do we do anything? Like, I like living indoors and eating food, therefore I work. We all have, what you guys have different reasons? Indoors, food, it's really like Maslow's hierarchy is right there with me. We all have things that we want. The trick of being part of a team or a company or a well-honed dog sport duo is that everyone's goals line up and are complementary. Your OKRs line up and are complementary. The thing is, a lot of what we call goals are complex and interdependent, chained behaviors that are a lot of actions and decisions together. It's a lot like machine learning. If AI and machine learning were easy, we would not have winter is coming. We would just have things that we could actually say, Alexa, do the thing, and the thing would happen, instead of like, I'm not sure what you're saying. We have to be clear about what the atomic unit of a goal is. What is the minimum viable behavior that we're going to reward? Because we need to do one thing and evaluate on that before we can start chaining everything together. We also have to be aware that the goals for other people are just as relevant as our goals and may be conflicting. This is what all of those Scrum stand-up alignment meetings are about, making sure that as a team, we're still aligned. So how do we change behaviors? How do I make my developers write documentation? I feel like you might have some ideas where I'm going with this. We can't achieve anything until we know what we're aiming for. Everyone has goals, but not all of us are clear about our goals, either with ourselves or with other people. And we all need to respect other people's goals as being equally valid as ours. So, for example, hypothetically, if you're a conference speaker and you spend 80% of your time on the road, and then your wife says to you, "I'd like to go on vacation." Your goal is to never put on shoes again, because you're on vacation, and if you see another airline, you may die. And her goal is to go to Disneyland, because she's tired of staying home with the kids. We need to align those goals and make sure that we are both getting respected. I need a day where I don't have to put on shoes to get food, which is a true problem of travel. And she needs some time to go do something fun with me that isn't just taking care of all the stuff I drop on her when I'm gone. So when we talk about OKRs, those aren't a value proposition. When we talk about SMART goals, those aren't a value proposition. We're not talking about why we should do these things. Like, when I went through my quarterly OKRs, we're like, hey, we should do so many blog posts and so many conference talks and so many, I'm clear on where that goes into my company because my manager is really good. But when you look at your goals, are you sure you know what you're doing? What they're used for? Because if you don't have that alignment, you might work really hard to do the wrong thing. A lot of goals need to be broken down into atomic steps. Trying to do all the things at once is confusing for a lot of mammals and a lot of trainers. You can't evaluate all the parts of something. You have to choose one thing, get it down, choose the next thing. How many of you know how to swim? Excellent. How many of you learned to swim because you got shoved in a lake? A couple of you. Yeah, I'm surprised you're still here. This is a hard course of learning there. Similarly, Americans teach children to ride bikes all at once, where we're like, you have to pedal and steer and stay balanced. Good luck. Strider bikes, much more humane. Sort of like the paddleboard of bike riding. When we're trying to teach something complex, something that involves like move your arms and stay afloat and keep breathing, we frequently teach those things one at a time and then chain them together. So when you're teaching or asking somebody to learn a new behavior, try to break it down into small steps that could be rewarded. A reward, a word I keep using, is the thing that makes positive training work. And there are as many kinds of reward as there are love languages. Some people use food, or praise, or money, or awesome emoji gifs in Slack, like I can be motivated by good Slack gifs. Others are rewarded by time off, or recognition, or team accomplishment. The important thing here is that the learner chooses the reward. If you're trying to get someone to do something and you're like, I will give you this magnificent bar of like 80% dark chocolate, and they're like, I hate dark chocolate. I am a milk chocolate person through and through. I would like a Milka bar. But the only thing you're offering me is like high-end chocolate? No, I'm not going to take that. So when you're trying to motivate someone, it's really important that you ask them what they want. What would make you happier? Some of us, I was talking to lots of people about this. I'm like, I wouldn't be rewarded necessarily by like a fancy printed certificate, but I would absolutely, even though I make enough money, be rewarded by a crisp $20 bill. I don't know, there's something about like money that is not allocated that I could do anything with. I could go mad. I could buy 2 coffees. whatever it is, you're going to have to figure out what rewards the person that you're trying to train. Successive approximation. I did so much research on this dude named B.F. Skinner, and you get very little of it, but here's some of it. Dr. Skinner trained pigeons to drop bombs accurately. It was impressive. There's a whole thing on it. And Look magazine was like, we do not believe that you trained pigeons to drop bombs. That seems implausible. And he said, okay, I'll tell you what. You bring a dog by the office, and I will train the dog. So Look magazine, with a photographer, shows up with this dog whose name is Nellie. And the first thing that Dr. Skinner does is he gives Nellie a piece of raw meat and asks the photographer to take a flash picture. Flash picture in 1951, it makes a noise and a flash, right? And then, when Nellie puts her paws on the wall, she gets a click. But the next time she puts her paws on the wall, it's not high enough. She doesn't get a click. So she tries again. She's like, I want that meat. Hello. She puts her paws further up the wall. Look magazine asked him if he could teach a dog to run up a wall. I mean, that's kind of a big ask. But if you look at these pictures, in 20 minutes of this and some raw meat, Nellie is running up the wall. You can teach almost anything to almost anybody if you can figure out how to ask for it in small enough increments with enough reward. There's a great picture of a woman teaching a whole bunch of like rando neighborhood kids to do the Fosby flop, which is the high jump thing where they go over the bar backwards. And she just figured out the elements and then rewarded them successively until the kids were doing a successful Fosby flop, and it took her an afternoon, 3 kids, and some like Kool-Aid pops. So let's talk about examples in corporate life. Fewer dogs, sorry. For years, people have laughed at me when I told them that my favorite management book was The Power of Positive Dog Training. They should not laugh, they should read the book, because we invest a lot in thinking of ourselves as logical and rational beings, and except we have an amygdala and like some reward centers, and no, it's bullshit. We're not rational. We're just playing rational on TV. But when you take all of these motivational techniques out of the realm of like people management and business, it turns out that you can see a lot of how humans act by studying how other animals act. And it's easier for us emotionally to see the patterns rather than trying to like impute dark motivations to people. We're like, oh, people mostly do what they get rewarded for and avoid things that they get punished for. It's kind of straightforward. I mean, we do sometimes have dark motivations, but a lot of times they're driven by chocolate. We think of ourselves as rational actors who can make long-term decisions, and it is true, but we also decide what to do moment by moment based on what we find useful, rewarding, or mitigating of problems. So who here planned to get up early enough to have breakfast before the conference? Did you all manage to do that? No, because in the moment, you were like, the snooze button. The snooze button. I'll take the tube. It'll be fine. And then you skate in like a little bit before the conference. You're not late, but you may be under-breakfasted. Rationally, long-term, you know that eating breakfast before a conference with lots of braining would be a good idea. But in the moment, you're not rewarded for it, and you are rewarded by 7 more minutes of sleep. That's how our whole life is. We know what the good idea is. Nobody is unclear on what the good idea is. But in the moment, it doesn't seem like as good an idea as doing the thing now. This is like the retirement savings conundrum, right? One of the things that we find from breaking down a behavior that looks really complex is that there are hidden steps and rewards in almost everything. There's this book called Making Work Visible by Dominica DeGrandis, and positive training is another lens to take on all the steps required to make work happen. So what she's advocating in this is it's a agile refinement on Kanban, and basically how do you understand what the blockers are for your team? Where does your work stall? And the thing is, this book is great, and I love it. And also, if you look at it, it's all about, are we doing the right thing in the moment? Are we making it easy to do the right thing in the moment? Have we taken away the snooze bar? Because if we can do that, we can be more effective as teams. Accelerate by Nicole Forsgren, Jez Humble, and Jean Kim is another book about making it rewarding to do the right thing. Teams that release faster are not only faster teams and safer teams and releasing better software, they're also happier because they're releasing. And developers, it turns out, really enjoy releasing software. They get that warm, fuzzy feeling of having done something useful. Okay, yeah, I like that. I like releasing. We do it every 6 months, and the month before that is a nightmarish hell of merges. Is less motivational. But we release every Friday, nothing goes wrong, that's motivational. That's pretty good. We release every 2 hours, that's pretty great. It doesn't matter when the release goes out, as long as your thing goes in it. And then you're not dependent on the team for that dopamine hit of, I released something, it's all on you. And you don't have to wait for release day. So, let's go back to writing documentation. This is a corporate example. Writing documentation is a set of actions, and it's more complicated than most people think of. It's why it's not useful to tell people to just write the docs. We have a whole conference, several whole conferences, on writing the docs. Some of the things that you need to do to write documentation include figuring out the scope, and the delivery method, and the audience, and where to start, because the blank page is like the abyss. It stares back into you, right? Templates, by the way, is the answer to a lot of these questions. Make some templates that are forms that people can fill in, and then they're not writing documentation, they're answering questions. It's easier. Where do I start? How far do I go? How much do you want documented? I love you, Germans in the audience. Something in your educational system is very interesting, because I have never met a German who will not document the hell out of something. It has been documented. I'm like, we didn't actually need to know that much, and that's 40 pages, and you're scaring me? But that's probably because I'm used to native English speakers, and we're like, thingy, what's it, who's he, done. But how far do you go? How much should you write? How much time should you spend on this? How do you know when you're done? If I'm a developer, I don't know when my documentation is done. There's not a test for that. There could be a test for that. You should put it in your build pipeline. This is traditional training, because if you can't check something in because you don't have documentation, that's an aversive, negative training moment. Who's going to review it? And how do I get it out to people? That's a lot of questions, right? You all prepared to answer all of those all the time, every day, every time you want to document a bug? Hire a tech writer. But we can make a template for that. We can make a form for that. We can figure this out. But it's not as easy as just write it up. And every time we ask somebody to do that, we're sort of saying, just jump through the flaming hoop and also touch the thing with your nose. It's complicated. We need some help. Another example is the yearly review. Who likes doing yearly review? No, me neither. And it turns out our yearly review is literally 5 questions, and it's like a retrospective, and it's just free-form questions. What did you like? What didn't you like? Do you feel like jumping off a bridge? HR is we live close to San Francisco. They're a little concerned. They're not. I'm sorry, HR. But if it were easy to do this, we wouldn't have so many jokes about it. So we ask ourselves questions like, what did I do this year? A lot of things, I know, because I didn't sleep. How does it matter whether I do this annual review? What am I going to get out of it? Am I going to get a raise? Is anybody going to give me a shiny certificate? How about a Starbucks gift card? No? No, I don't get anything for filling out this form except anxiety and stress. Super. How about if I put that off and do something I find rewarding? Who is this for? Is this just for my boss, or is this for HR, or is this for, like, my great-grand boss who's going to judge the entire department? Yikes. So when we think about this, I want you to think about what rewards you. How do you feel rewarded? Because the learner chooses the reward. Think about what makes you feel good and write it down and then explain it to your manager. I told my manager I have an anxiety problem, and if he doesn't tell me every 2 weeks I'm doing a good job, I will begin to think that I'm being fired. Honest to God, he wrote it down. He made a memo. He put it in his reminder calendar. Every couple weeks, he's like, by the way, still doing a good job, kid. It's great. It's super. I never think about it. So what do your reports want? If you have somebody reporting to you, have you asked them what makes them feel rewarded? Do they want time off? Do they want more money? We always want more money. Is there something that you could actually give them that would be rewarding? I'm not going to claim positive behavior changes completely without problems, because nothing is perfect. For example, there are some people who are already rewarded to the top of their bent. They roll out of bed, excited about being experts. You're already paying them so much money that they don't find money motivational. I want that job. And they have and get to use their unlimited time off, like, oh yeah, I took a month off the week after I started. Those are a tough nut to crack. Daniel Pink's book, Drive, is about autonomy and mastery and purpose, and you should read it for those people, because they're already doing things that reward them. And I want you to understand that we have a lot of different reward mechanisms, and some of them are intrinsic, and like this, Drive, and some of them are extrinsic, like crisp 20-pound bills. It could be very easy to do rewards that are harmful to the rewarded person or others on the team. And also, implicitly, we're rewarded by staying employed, but it's not very immediate. To do good training, rewards have to be immediate. And if the dog ate all of the cookies, that would be a bad reward in the long run. It's so much effort to do this. As a person, you're going to spend a lot of time on this. And it's important to not just go and do this. You have to tell people that you are trying to change their behavior, because it's not super ethical to change people's behavior. If you are mad about Cambridge Analytica, do not do to your reports what Facebook did to us. Just saying. Tell people that you're planning to do this. Persistence matters. This can't be one of those 6-month morale-raising efforts. So here's what I want you to remember. Ready? Think clearly about everyone's goals. If you can't write it down, it's amorphous and squishy. If you write it down and it looks like it came from a management book, still no good. I want the goal to be as precise as put your back left paw on this log. That way you can reward it, because you can see it happen. It's a test, right? It's a test. If it's not testable, it's not a good goal. Figure out rewards together. Figure out what your team, what your individual people want as a reward, and provide that. Commit for the long term. If you do this for 6 months and give it up, you are not going to have those persistent behaviors. You don't have to reward every time. Very few of us have been paid in M&Ms for using the potty today. But you do have to make it a long-term commitment until it becomes intrinsically rewarding instead of extrinsically rewarding. And here is my bibliography. Thank you all. Have a nice lunch.